What's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to take a look at the Godskin Peelers and what type of build using armor and talismans you can put together to make these most effective. While these are really good in PvP, in this video we're going to focus on the PvE aspect. So, let's get started. So, the first cool thing about these weapons is the jump attack. One jump attack can typically land 3 to 4 shots. I have seen up to 5. And with 2 weapons in your hand, you double down on your damage. And just leave your enemy bleeding. So if we slow this down, I'm going to zoom in. You can see the shots land. So 1, 2, and 3. And the enemy is left bleeding. Not bad for a single move. Now, for my favorite is this weapon's anti-aircraft capabilities. That's right, airborne enemies in this game often make you feel like a 5-year-old in a t-ball match, endlessly swinging and coming up with nothing. However, these weapons put up a wall of razor-sharp metal, making it difficult for these enemies to strike you. Now on to the numbers. So footage for this video was obtained from journeys 10 through 13, finished up at level 508, and the important numbers here are your strength, dexterity, and arcane. I have them maxed out at 99. And if we shift over here and look at the attack power, that's going to max you out at 249 plus 424, and your scaling, strength, and arcane are going to be at D, and your dex will be at B. So next we're going to look at our weapons. Both Godskin Peelers are maxed out at 25, and the Ashes of War you're going to want to use for this build is the Seppuku. And the reason why you're going to want to use this is that's going to increase attack power and improve the ability to inflict blood loss, and that blood loss is really what's going to make this build very deadly. Next you're going to want to use the White Mask. And the reason you're going to want to use the White Mask is it slightly raises attack power when there is blood loss nearby. Next we have the Raptor's Black Feathers for the chest piece, and this is going to tie into your jump attack. And very simply put, this chest piece strengthens jump attacks. Now for our talismans, and I'm going to focus on just the offensive type talismans that you're going to want to use. First is the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, and what this does is blood loss in the vicinity increases the attack power. So next I use the Winged Sword Insignia, which raises attack power with successive attacks, but I will mention if you don't plan on raising your dex to 99, you may consider doing the Millicent questline. Now I haven't done it because I keep my dex at 99, so I don't need it, so I can't show you that. But if you do the Millicent's questline, you'll get the Millicent's Prosthesis Talisman, and what that does, in addition to raising attack power with successive attacks, it adds 5 attribute points into your dexterity. So you may want to consider that if you're piecing together this build. Next, you're going to want to use the Claw Talisman, and this is going to enhance your jump attacks. And for our last talisman, this one's just sort of an optional one. I'm rocking the Urge Tree Favor +2. So this one, just, whichever one you prefer, and probably it's going to depend on which enemy you are fighting. So let's fight some bosses, and I'm going to go through a typical playthrough for me. Now Margit, Godric, and Renala, fighting Renala here. Super easy. The Godskins absolutely melt them. I'm not even going to throw Margit and Godric in the mix, but just starting here with Renala, and you can see they just slice and dice her to death. So after beating Renala, you're probably going to have to start using incantations and Seppuku. And now I know I'm not at the first Godfrey match, but I just wanted to show you the timing and how to set this up. So I have my Dragon Communion seal in my left hand. So what you're going to do is switch to your seal, pop your incantations, whichever you choose. Switch back to your twin blade, to the Godskin, Seppuku with left hand, then Seppuku with right hand, and you'll want to set this up prior to entering the gate, so whenever you go into the boss fight, you're not getting attacked. And the reason why you want to do it in this order is if I Seppuku with my left Godskin and then pop my incantations, it cancels the Seppuku. So it'll pertain to whichever hand you have your seal if you're using incantations. So just wanted to point that out to you guys. So on to Godfrey, the Golden Shade version. Now he deals out physical damage, but he takes no bleed. So this may be the first spot where you notice the Godskins kind of not doing their thing because this guy doesn't bleed. So you may play around with your build a little bit. However, Godfrey and Morgott, they're really not that difficult. They're sort of training bosses to get to the Dragon Temple, in my opinion. And if you take a close look, I'm actually kind of built backwards. Instead of the white mask, I should have used the Raptor's chest piece, and because this guy doesn't bleed, I should have focused on my jump attack. But it sort of makes my point that Godfrey's really not that tough. Up next, we have Morgott. And though he deals slash, pierce, holy, and fire damage coming in the second phase of the fight, has a low threshold for bleed. So the guy's skins, coupled with your jump attack, you should be able to melt this guy fairly quickly. So probably not going to have to make any adjustments. Just keep in mind the holy damage and the possible fire damage in the second phase. Up next, we have everybody's favorite giant. That is the Fire Giant. And this is a two-phase fight. Of course, he deals out strike and fire damage. Imagine that. It's a two-phase fight. First phase, you'll want to try to go for the ankles if you can and not get stomped upon. And this guy is susceptible to bleed. So definitely, if you're not having any trouble with as far as dying, go ahead and increase that offense. And in the second phase, of course, if you can get his hands, those are his weak points. It's sometimes kind of hard to get a hold of those. And his chest, if you can get a hold of that, that definitely pops some damage off. However, if you simply can't seem to get at either of those spots, his leg back there still will enable you to win this. So, anyways, only adjustments you may consider if you are having problems with your survivability is throw on maybe a Flame Drake Talisman to increase your fire damage negation. That's if you're having issues with that. Up next, we are at the Dragon Temple, and first on deck is the Godskin Duo. Now, the hardest thing about these guys is trying to beat them on the first attempt, because when you do the first attempt, you can come back to the back of the room, set your incantations and your seppuku up, and then you can move forward and they'll spawn in. If they are able to kill you the first time, it will put up a fog wall, and whenever you enter, they will be on you fairly quickly, so it may be hard to set your character up. And not to mention, when you're running down to this little room area, there's going to be a couple of knights who are going to try to ding that health bar. So just keep that in mind. However, these guys are not, like I said, not that difficult. If you've beaten the Fire Giant, you should not have any problems with these guys. I'm thinking back to my first playthrough. They deal slash, pierce, and fire damage, and they are weak to the blood loss, so the Godskins should melt them, no problem. If you look closely, you can see that I've got the Bull Goat's armor chest piece on. I had to swap out that Raptor's. And mainly, that's due to the other enemy adds on the way down here and this whole generalized area. So, just keep that in mind. However, once you get to these guys, should not have to tweak your build too much, I wouldn't think. Next up, we have the Beast Clergyman and Maliketh. And of course, you'll have to pass a Draconic Knight to get into this fight. And you're probably going to want to go ahead and kill that knight just so you can set up prior to entering this arena. And this fight, they will deal standard pierce and magic damage. The magic damage being dealt from Maliketh in the second stage. And they both are susceptible to bleed, so slice and dice away with your Godskin pillars. Just, this guy, Maliketh especially can be the hardest part of this fight. And so you may play around with some magic negation or physical damage negation in your armor. However, I mean, if he catches you with that arc attack, I mean, you're pretty much dead anyway, so I don't know. Personal preference, I guess. So we are going to skip right past Gideon the All-Knowing because we just don't consider him a boss. Way too easy. I think you could just punch him to death. And we're just going to go straight to Godfrey and his WWF counterpart, Aura Lu. So these guys deal out standard and strike damage, and they are both susceptible to bleed. So peel away with your Godskin peelers. Now you may have to make some adjustments, maybe put some type of physical damage negation, or maybe scrap, maybe beef up your armor. These guys, especially in later playthroughs, can hit pretty hard, so just keep that in mind. And the last boss we're going to cover is Mog, Lord of Blood. And though this boss is optional, I always come over here and kill this dude because he drops about 1,000,000 ruins, especially in later playthroughs. And also, at the bottom of the elevator leading up to this fight is a somber dragonstone. You can never have too many of those. And so Mog, he deals out standard pierce fire damage and also can inflict blood loss. However, as you can see, he is highly susceptible to blood loss himself, making him perfectly made for the Godskin pillars. So you may be asking yourself why I haven't included Radagon in the Elden Beast, and simply put, they are immune to bleed. So the Godskin peelers are not going to be the ideal weapon for them. Now, I'm in, play journey plus 10, so they hit really hard for me. I just ended up switching to a physical damaging weapon just to get through. If I stuck with it, I probably could have got the job done. However, I'm just trying to get through these playthroughs as quickly as possible because I have a lot more weapons that I want to upgrade and test out. However, if you're, in that journey 2 through 7 range, you could probably get the job done. But anyways, just keep that in mind, and that's going to wrap up this boss section. The rest of the video, I'm going to show the locations to the weapon itself, the Seppuku Ash of War, the different armor and talismans that I've mentioned. So stay tuned for that if you need or are interested in any of these items. To find the Godskin peelers, we're going to start at the academy. Just use that as a reference point. And if you head up through the ravine and up to this precipice overlook area, climb up through there, make your way up, and you'll eventually fight the magma worm. And then you can ride an elevator and you're on the Altus Plateau. Once there, just head towards Lindell, go in through the gate, loop back around, and you'll arrive at the Windmill Village. And this is going to be where your starting point is to go get the Godskin pillars. To find the Seppuku Ash of War, you're going to start up here at the Freezing Lake. But to get here, of course, you're going to have to beat Morgott and Lindell. Ride the first elevator to get to the Forbidden Lands. Then take your pathway across to the Grand Lift of Rold. Make your way up across some more ruins up this pathway. You'll reach the Freezing Lake, and then eventually you'll find the Grace Point. So once you're here, you're going to just call out your horse, and you're going to ride over here. I've got a waypoint up ahead, the little blue mark. You're going to look for this tree here. Now there's going to be a scarab, one of the little beetles that roll its little ball around, the little scarab thing. That's going to be your Ash of War, but it's going to be invisible. So once you get to this tree, you can kind of hear the sounds, but also you can look at the footprints. And so once you spot the footprints, there they went. See, you're just going to stand here and lay in ambush. So I'm just going to sit here until I see the footprints come back around. And there it is. To get the white mask, you're going to need to get to the Mogwin Palace map, which is the bird farm. And you're looking for this grace point, the Palace Approach Ledge Road. This is, of course, under the Siofri River under map. What I'll do is I'll throw a link. I've made a video on how to get to the bird farm. There's two ways, the VAR pathway or the longer way, which is getting the secret medallion and traveling up the Grand Lift. However, I'll rather than try to explain it because that would take probably at least 5-10 minutes. I'll just link those videos, or if you just want to search how to get to the bird farm, I'm sure you can find that out. However, if you can't get this here, don't stress. I mean, this is only one component of your build. So when you spawn in, you're going to look to the left. This is actually the bird farm bird that you shoot. So I would tag him with an arrow before going down, confirm that he falls off. This is going to make your job a lot easier. And what you're going to do is you're going to have to get invaded 3 times by this nameless white mask. And once you get to this area, I would try to knock this out. There is a boss called Mog that you can fight in this area. I'm not going to show where he's at. If you either know who he is or you don't. And there's also a cave where you can invade Var. I wouldn't recommend doing that either. Just when you get here, knock this out if you're interested in getting this mask. I have seen people, I don't know whether fighting Mog or Var, something ruins this guy from invading your world. So when you get here, just if you're interested in this mask, go ahead. I would recommend knocking it out. So what I'm doing is I'm sneaking around this cave because there's another bird straight ahead. And what you don't want is you don't want this guy to invade and have a bird attacking you at the same time. And also, you don't want these little dudes following you into battle either, because they can just make your day bad. So here we are. We're getting invaded by the nameless white mask. So I'm going to stay back here, take him out. Now, he's going to invade you 3 times. There's only going to be one. Well, I believe there's one area where he drops the mask. So if you see, I've beat him. He does not drop the mask here. So what I'm doing is I'm sneaking around. I'm sneaking around to my left because there's a bird kind of to my right, right there. I'm not sure if you saw him. And I'm trying to sneak around because there's a bunch of dogs in this area. I'm trying to get to the next point where this guy invades. Because basically, I don't want him invading me and then have a bunch of other enemies attacking me. But I will say, if you can't manage to do this, don't stress out, because if you die, you can come back down here. It won't ruin the guy invading your world, if that makes sense. So, if you died, it's not the end of the world. You can still get this white mask. So right here, I am clearing out these dogs because I don't want them attacking me. And I'm kind of taking my time because there is a point right around here that he will invade. But up ahead is where I don't know, this version of his invasion. This is the one that will drop the mask. So let me skip ahead. So speeding up here, so this would be kind of the area where that bird we shot would be. So that's why I recommend taking that guy out. And I'm just making my way around, and there's this little drop item here on this corpse. Once you get around here, I would be on the lookout. So here he is. And for me, I've done this a couple of times, and this spot where he invades seems to be where I get the mask. So, I'm not sure if that'll be the same for you guys. Like I said, I was just trying to complete this all in one run. Don't worry, if you die, you can obviously come back. To get the Raptor's Black Feathers chest piece, you're going to look for Sage's Cave. going to be up on your Altus Plateau. So if we use the Abandoned Coffin as our starting point, that's of course after you beat the Magma Worm. Starting at the Abandoned Coffin, you're going to head northeast, and Sage's Cave will be on your right. Pretty easy to spot. So I'm just going to start from there for you guys. To get the Lord of Blood's Talisman prior to beating Maliketh, you're going to look for the Capital Rampart in Lindell City. And I'm going to use the Abandoned Coffin as a starting point. This is, of course, after you beat Magma Worm. So starting at the Abandoned Coffin, which is on the Altus Plateau, head east, make your way into Lindell. Start heading northeast, circling sort of back around, but before exiting the city, hang right, find this pathway, and at this gate there will be a Draconic Knight you have to defeat. Once you defeat him, you'll be able to open up the Capital Rampart Grace. To get the Lord of Blood's Talisman after you beat Maliketh, this will be Lindell, capital of Ash. This is the grace point that will be in front of you as soon as you beat Maliketh. You're going to head towards this underground roadside area, which is going to be southwest of where you spawn. To get the winged sword insignia, we're going to go next to Stillwater Cave. It'll be after you beat Godric. I'm going to start from Leorna Lakeshore because this cave can be tricky. There's a couple of different pathways that are different elevations. So I'm going to speed through this, show you how to get in the cave. Then I'll show you how to get down to the fight where you're going to get the actual talisman itself. To get the Claw Talisman, you're going to look for the Rampart Tower, Lost Grace. This is going to be in Stormvale Castle, and this will be between the Margit and Godric boss fight.